Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 1UP Turbo Truck Series from Bristol Motor Speedway. It's been a bit delayed, but we are here and ready to bring you 100 laps of racing action from the last great Coliseum in a unique doubleheader format with the 1UP Superstar Series. It's going to be a lot of fun seeing both series on track here today. But it's the Truck Series turn up first, and we're ready to bring you the action right now. Alongside me in the booth today is Ben McDonald for the truck race at Bristol, and, well, this is going to be a very interesting one because I fully expect there to be it to be a two-groove racetrack by the end of this thing, but I believe at the very beginning it's going to be a bottom feeders Bristol.
Yeah, definitely those up at the front are going to be very aggressive, try to get that track position, as it's going to be very key for these short tracks here.
We got Earl Sear on pole position for race number 3 of the season. We can give you the full starting lineup now. He lines up on pole with Carson Jefferson alongside him in second, Riley Hooper third. Knox Hangley gets his best start of the year in fourth, ahead of Christian Russell, who rounds out the top 5. James Ellison, the Pensacola winner, lines up 7th, but critically, last time out, the winner there, Ryan Griffin, he starts 29th in this one. He's going to have a bit of a hole to dig himself out of, as are several of our big names, but you never know what can happen here at Bristol. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I fully expect there to be a lot of interesting moments that change the complexion of this race.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how these guys that haven't run up front, and then those guys in the back that have shown some strength try to get through the field and hopefully get some good points for today.
So with that being said, the cars are lined up on the grid and we're ready to bring you 100 laps of racing at Bristol. This is the AutoZone 250 and we're coming at you live from Bristol Motor Speedway for the 1UP Turbo Truck Series. Green flag is next, and stay tuned, folks, because you're not going to want to miss the start, which is mere moments away. With Earl Sear on the inside lane, Carson Jefferson on the outside. The green flag is in the flagman's hands, and it is out. We're underway here at Bristol, and they're pretty even Stevens for the first few rows, but now you can see Earl Sear getting a pretty big jump on the field, and you can see 3 wide further back in the pack, but number 3 has a pretty commanding lead already, and we haven't even completed lap 1. They're still 3 wide for 4th, and it looks like they're going to settle that out as well, but we're already completed in lap 1.
Yeah, the number 3 had a great jump on the inside, shortest way around the racetrack. Definitely helped that. That 66 truck is not going to let it get away.
No, the 2 Robbers Racing teammates of Jefferson and Hooper, 2nd and 3rd, they're going to try and track down this number 3. As it's a Chevrolet 1-2-3, they've got 4 of the top 5 right now. This is going to be very interesting to see if their stranglehold on the front will last the whole way, as Riley Hooper in 3rd needs a good run to get his season started off right. He's very deep in the points, in danger of missing out on the top 30 after race 5, so he needs a strong run here. As we look further back in the field, where we see some side-by-side action between Brian Grigsby and James Ellison. That's the battle for 7th, and it looks like at the line, the 92 might get him barely, and they're still side-by-side further back.
Yeah, going back to the top 30 in points, after race number 5, if you're in the top 30 in points, you are secured for an entry into the race, and everybody outside of the top 30, you have to race your way in during qualifying. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out, as we have left until the deadline. But it's still going to be interesting to see how everybody else fares out in the top 20s and 30s, trying to get as many points as they can to hopefully be above that.
One driver in trouble in that department is Earl Sear, our race leader. He's had a miserable start to the season. A DNF at Pensacola and a mechanical issue at Macon puts him pretty far down the order as well, but not nearly as bad as Riley Hooper, who is currently outside the top 40 in points. He's the lowest driver in points to have started both races so far, and he's doing everything he can to make up for lost time here at Bristol. He's running in 3rd. That's a solid 40 points in the bank, and he really needs those. That would be at least twice as many as he's accrued in the first 2 races combined.
Yeah, it's definitely good as we go ahead and see the number 3 coming out to a little bit of a lead over the 66, and then there's a 4-car group right behind them. It looks like these guys are starting to get spread out. It also makes us question when lap traffic will appear.
It's not a matter of if it'll happen, it's a matter of when it will happen and how bad it will affect these leaders. Because Bristol, as you know, is a half-mile racetrack, and when you put 42 trucks on the racetrack, it's going to be a recipe for disaster if you can try and cram them all in there. And I'd say by about half distance, we're going to see the lap traffic be a factor. It's just a matter of how fast can the leaders get by and what line are they going to take in doing so.
Yeah, currently the low line seems to be really helpful, as there is a certain resin that they put down before this race started. But you can see them going about half a lane up to get a good arc off the corner, and we're not entirely sure how that high side's going to work, but I feel like it's definitely going to work its way in later on in the race.
Looking back now at 6th place Knox Hangley, who's had a pretty bad start to the season as well. Couple DNFs to his name already, but he's running in 6th right now, doing a pretty solid job in the number 7, and he's just doing whatever he can to secure a good finish, like Riley Hooper in the 00 is. But now, back at the front of the field, we're completing lap number 14, and Jefferson has caught Earl Sear in this 3. We'll see what the 66 can do to try and get around him. Is he going to put the bumper to the back of the 3? Is he going to try and rip the high side to try and get around? There's lots of options here at Bristol.
Yeah, definitely, but that 66 is definitely not going to be able to get around him, as the 3 has a bunch of clean air in front of him, as there is no real lap traffic or any traffic yet in front of him just yet. So that clean air is definitely going to be a good factor for the 3 truck, but it also might play a factor later on in the race, depending on how he can get through lap traffic, and wondering if it'll disable his car possibly.
And now you can see Sear starting to gap him a little bit in the 66. Earl Sear is pulling out to a bit of a lead here, and you see Riley Hooper starting to drift a little bit higher up the racetrack. Not too much, but it's a noticeable change. Now you see Jefferson doing the same thing, testing the waters of that high groove, trying to see what it'll do as far as their truck's handling. But I fully expect that outside line to be a factor in this race. Probably not yet, but soon enough it will be.
Yeah, definitely. Rubber builds up on those high grooves, and it helps on launch out of the corners, as it's a higher way around the racetrack and gives you plenty of speed and consistent speed around the whole entire racetrack. But you are losing out on time, so it might play a factor, it might not. We'll just have to see as time goes on.
We're about a fifth of the way through this race right now, as Earl Sears led every lap so far. These are his first laps led of the season in this 3 truck, and he's doing a very good job of hanging on to a pretty commanding lead, almost 9/10 of a second, which is quite a bit here at Bristol. Going into turn 3 and 4 now is Earl Sears, running about half a groove up off the very bottom of the track. That might just be to work some rubber into the higher grooves, but yeah, now he's running all 4 tires in that resin. It's going to vary a little bit, these guys' lines here, and now you see him running half a lane up again. It's going to be interesting to see what these guys can do with that, as we now look back at the battle for 6th between Hanley, Grigsby, and Ellison.
Yeah, these guys, even though they're not up to that lead group, they're still trying to fight for as many points as they can get.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is James Ellison in the 10. I was referring to Billy Kidd in the 72 earlier, but this is James Ellison. He's in 9th place, right about where he started, and he's battling with Austin Runkle in the 18. That is 49th position. Ellison looking to rebound after a bit of a disappointing day at Macon. He's doing a pretty good job of it, running in the 9th spot.
Yeah, these guys are doing really well. Just top 10, top 15 in points will definitely get you into good positions later on in the season. Consistency really does matter at the beginning of every season.
And Ellison needs to stay up there if he's going to contend for a playoff spot. Only 10 make it after the first 13 races, so it's going to be very interesting to see who can hang on for the 10 postseason spots. But right now, the battle rages on between these 3 in the 6th, 7th, and 8th spots. Grigsby in the middle of that sandwich right there. He's trying to prove that he's not the number 2 driver at FPM. But after the performance his teammate Ryan Griffin put on at Macon, he's got a lot of work to do to prove something like that. But he's doing a good job right now, running in 7th while his teammates mired deep in the pack. And who knows, we'll see what the 92 can do at the end of this race.
Yeah, he's definitely showing his strengths, and obviously doesn't want his teammate to take all the spotlight at their facility and the work. Definitely going to be interesting to see how their season plays on, and wondering if both trucks will be able to perform as well as they do week in and week out.
You can see now Austin Runkle did get around James Ellison for 9th. Now that's Jared Polanski in the 71 running behind the number 10, with Francois Chastain and Tanner Browning not too far behind them. And in that dark blue truck off in the distance, Austin Montgomery making his series debut, and he deserves a proper race for his first race in the Truck Series. He only made it a handful of laps in his Nitro National debut before crashing out. Hopefully he can make it to the end of this one. But right now you see Runkle's actually starting to catch these three up ahead of him. So maybe that 18 just has got a faster truck than we've been led to believe, as now Grigsby makes a move under Hanley for 6th.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job using that low line and taking the advantage away from the 7. He's just going to give him the position over him. A really good move to find that 92 there.
And Billy Kidd trying to send it in on the 7 as well. He's not quite going to be able to make it, as now they go back single file with Grigsby now in the 6th spot, ahead of Hanley, Kidd, and Runkle. This has been a good battle for 6th between the mid-pack drivers, and now Runkle makes a dive on the 72. That is for the 8th spot. I think the 72 is going to hang on for a little while, but at this rate, it's just that 18's got to be one of the fastest trucks here. And if he can get around these guys, I imagine he'll be able to chase down the top 5 in pretty short order. As now we move back up to the top 5, and Jefferson still holding on to 2nd, but Christian Russell in 4th, trying to hold off a hard-charging number 83 behind him.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job holding up that 83. Obviously, he is a Cup veteran, so it's definitely going to be a hard job to do that. But he's doing a really good job, same with the rest of these top 4, being able to run their race for their own series.
But it's been Earl Sear in command of the field as we look at the lap traffic. There's only about a straightaway behind the lap traffic right now, so I fully expect Earl Sear to catch the back end of the field in about 10 laps or so. That'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on as this race progresses. How Earl Sear catches the lap traffic and how badly he gets held up by them, that could allow 2nd through 5th to chase him back down again, because right now all 4 of them under a blanket.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this race plays out, especially with lap traffic, as we don't know what kind of lap traffic is going to be held here, and wondering if the lines will be holding up as well. Maybe the whole entire group goes to the outside, maybe it all changes, who knows, but that number 3 truck is in a vulnerable place when it comes to lap traffic, as he has not experienced dirty air in the slightest this whole entire race.
Certainly not, but he's going to be dealing with it shortly in that 3 truck, and now he's just got to... Oh, and it looks like, I hate to interrupt myself, but we've got one on pit road. It's the 72 of Billy Kidd, the engine sounding a little sick in that 72. I believe his day might have just come to an end on lap 41. It's an absolute shame for Billy Kidd, who was held down a top 10 spot in the points going into this race, but he'll obviously lose that with DNF here today. But I'm sure he'll be ready to come back in a few weeks at Las Vegas and go after it again. But right now, Earl Sear has about a second's lead over Carson Jefferson, but lap traffic's closing in every single lap.
Yeah, he's trying to put that buffer to the 66, so it gives him a little bit of time to work around the lap traffic. Obviously, you need all the time that you can get, especially at a short track like this.
And with short tracks making up the majority of the schedule here in the Truck Series, knowing how to handle lap traffic is going to be an important thing to figure out in the series, because you're going to need it to notch up a majority of wins this season. Because 11 of the 20 races this season take place on tracks of 1 mile or shorter. And Earl Sear's lead, is it staying at 1.1? I think it is. But, it just went down a tiny bit. But Earl Sear's still having about a second lead, and he needs to keep that lead. Because you can see Giovanni Pena and Trey Jackson just in front of Earl Sear. These two are teammates, but they're not racing like it for 40th position. And if they get side by side like we might be seeing right here, that could allow the 3 to catch right back up to them.
Yeah, but that might not be a good thing for the 3, as there is no room to go. You can barely go too wide here, let alone 3 is going to be a very hard thing to do. So 86 and 27, they have to battle it out and hopefully get it sell out before the 3 catches.
Yep, Giovanni Pena, a bit of a surprise to see this far down the order. He had great runs in the first 2 races before being slowed up in each. But he's a bit of an underdog hopeful right now. But not having the greatest day at Bristol, he currently runs in the 39th position. And looking in his mirror, he can see that black and white number 3 closing right up to them. And it's just a matter of time before he starts trying to make moves to pass the lap traffic, because the gap is starting to close a tiny bit, even if he hasn't quite caught them yet.
Yeah, I think the dirty air is definitely affecting that 3 truck. Obviously has not been in dirty air this whole entire race. Has pretty much led the whole entire thing all by himself. As he now catches the lap traffic, it's going to be interesting to see how they battle it out.
Now you see Christian Russell in the 0-2. He managed to get past Riley Hooper in the 0-0, and he needs to get a move on to try and get around Carson Jefferson to try and start chasing down Earl Sear as well, because now he has completely caught the lap traffic, and at this point, he's just the 86 and 27 are just moving roadblocks for his 3 to try and navigate around, because you can see that gap starting to close just a tiny bit.
Yeah, it's closing just a tiny bit right now, but it's going to close tremendously if he can't get around these guys. That 66 is going to do whatever he can to get up to that 3 and probably pass him, as he just gained about 0.3 of a second that lap.
Absolutely he did, and Christian Russell's hot on his heels as well. So Earl Sear doing whatever he can to try and stay in the lead of this race and try and get around these lap trucks at the same time, but it's just going to be, it's very difficult at this point, because no one really wants to go up top in all of its uncertainties. Everybody wants to stick down to the bottom where they know, where it's safe, but they got to realize they've got to start exploring other grooves if they're going to have any hopes of getting around these lap trucks.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a troubling thing to do, especially if you don't feel comfortable going up there, since the most comfortable line is that bottom line. But you just have to go out your comfort zone sometimes, just like the 66 might have to do, and what the 0-2 has done to get up to the 50.
And now that gap is down to just 0.4 of a second between Earl Sear and Carson Jefferson. Now it's closing up even more. This is going to be very interesting to see. As they get to the line, the gap, it's down to about, well, yep, under 0.2 of a second now. So Carson Jefferson has effectively caught Earl Sear. Now it's a matter of if he can catch him, and well, he's already caught him, but if he can pass him, and if he's willing to go up to the high lane to make it happen.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for the high line. Hopefully it has enough built up rubber to get something going up there.
Yep, I see Christian Russell going up there to try and make something happen. He's going to try and get around Jefferson, because we've got a big pack of lap trucks up here. We've got Griffith Allsup, Maston Rimmel, Nick Ortiz, Henry Brown, and one truck just exited the pit lane. We'll keep an eye on who that was in a moment, but right now Earl Sear's in a huge wad of trucks, and it's going to be very tough getting around all of these guys who are trying desperately to stay on the lead lap. But and now the top 5 have all been stacked up behind this big pack.
Yeah, I'm wondering if something happened to bunch up all these trucks, because we did not see that before. As we see that lap truck down there before. Unfortunate for him, but we got to continue going.
Yep, that was the 07 of Brandon Mayhew who exited the pits. He might have had a flat tire on that 07, but now the top, 2nd through 5th are not single file at all. They're double wide behind leader Earl Sear, and now Russell and Hooper have made their way up to the top, but the problem with that is Giovanni Pena's gone up there too, so it's a bit difficult for them to get some momentum around there. Earl Sear has led all 62 laps so far. He has locked up the most laps led bonus point, but he wants to win this race, and he's got to hold off a hungry pack of 4 very hungry drivers, all searching for their first wins.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to come easy, though, as that 3 truck has done a great job of holding them off, but it may come at a price here later on in the race, as Clean Air was definitely able to affect that 3 truck in getting to the lead. It's going to be interesting to see how Dirty Air plays an effect later on in this race.
I have a feeling Christian Russell's going to be the biggest challenger at this point. He's up on the top. He's making gains on Carson Jefferson in 2nd. And I believe if once Russell clears the 66, he'll be able to make a charge at it. Because Russell knows how to run up front. He had a decent tenure in the Nitro National Series a year ago. Now he's in the championship caliber Kings Motorsports equipment. And now Russell's going to make a move up high. He's going to try and ring around Jefferson, and he clears the 66. and now he tucks in right behind Earl Sear to try and plan his next move. But we're on lap 67 of 100. Earl Sear has led them all so far, but he's got a new challenger right behind him in second, Christian Russell in that 02.
Yeah, he made that pass with ease, so he definitely has the strongest car on the high side. He's definitely going to play that to his advantage and maybe even drive up the 3 to possibly block that line and maybe do a good little switcheroo move. It'll all just come with the time and see how long it will take for him to catch a 3 and possibly make a move.
We have 32 laps to go at Bristol, and it's still anybody's guess who's going to win this race. Earl Sear has dominated. He's led every lap so far, but he's in a difficult position right now because he's got a very hungry pack of trucks behind him, all looking for their first Truck Series win, like Sear is himself. But Giovanni Pena, I remember a Nitro National race here last year. TJ Murray was in that one, and he did his absolute best to hold up the leaders for as long as he possibly could until he inevitably got lapped there. Giovanni Pena is doing something very similar here in this race, and it's not his fault. He just wants to stay on the lead lap. But now Russell needs to find a way around Earl Sear. He might have to go back to the top because now Jefferson's up there, and he's starting to make up time as well.
Yeah, there's definitely nothing wrong with what the 6 is doing. Obviously, you don't want to go a lap down, especially at a short track, as it could mean definitely the end of the race for you and possibly lose out on more position gain. But obviously it does have its troubling times. It's a 3 is probably really impatient with that 86 right now. With the 02 making a move.
Down the inside goes Christian Russell. Earl Sear left the bottom open, and now Russell, this is the closest anybody's been to passing that 3 truck all race long, and now he gets a nose out, but now Earl Sear gets it back. Going into turn 3, they're battling side by side for the lead. Russell on the inside, Sear on the outside. The 3 just holds them off for the time being.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job. The 02 baited him to go to the outside, obviously. Is playing out in the 02's favor. So close to passing him.
Oh, we've got trouble though, and Robert Weaver in a big crash in turns 3 and 4. Christian Russell, he's going to be involved in this one, and Duke Anzac on his side. Riley Hooper is involved in this one. Knox Hanley, James Ellison. Oh my goodness, there's so many trucks involved in this one. Austin Montgomery on his roof. Henry Thomas is involved. Ryan Soper, Justin Rodriguez. It's a huge stack up at this point, and caution flies for the first time today.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Surprised how that happened. We're going to have to go and look at a replay, but very unfortunate for most of these guys up in the top 10. They had a really good day going for them.
And you can see both Crossroads Racing trucks, Dylan Hall and James Ellison, done for the day on lap 76. Their races have come to an early end as a result of this massive accident on the front straightaway that's taken out at least a quarter of the field here. And you see Austin Montgomery rolling after that, but a lot of good trucks made it through that. Ryan Griffin made it through, Zach Rogers made it through, but unfortunately, a lot, like you said, a lot of the top 10 knocked out in this one. And Robert Weaver was running at the very tail end of the field, and he just gets a tap from Nick Ortiz, who doesn't have much room for himself to go, and he gets tagged by Giovanni Pena. That sends Christian Russell onto the apron. He loses control, plows into the barrels there. Duke Anzac gets sent onto his side. Riley Hooper with his 3rd DNF of the season. That is going to cripple his chances of making the top 30. But you can see it's just a big stack up. There's nowhere to go for any of these guys. And you see a lot of good trucks taken out. Riley Hooper, Christian Russell, James Ellison, Allison Rain. Man, it's just Bristol. It's a tough old track, and you can see how it leads into a massive stack up in the late stages here in this race today. So we're coming to the restart with 20 laps to go. Earl Sear has kept his lead. He managed to avoid that wreck very narrowly. Carson Jefferson still in second. That's about the only 2 in the top 10 that managed to avoid that crash. Austin Runkle's now made his way up into 3rd now. Francois Chastain 4th. Alexander Rowe 5th. We've got a lot of new faces in the top 10. It'll be interesting to see how they fare in this new position as we're coming to the restart with 20 laps to go.
That 3 truck is in a very great position right now, getting clean air at the beginning. Obviously starting on the outside, not preferred as the 07 gets himself.
Yeah, don't forget though, Brandon Mayhew in the 07 does have fresher tires than everybody else, so he'll be able to easily make his way around. That's not a major concern for Earl Sear at this point. But what is his big concern is Carson Jefferson. That's his lone remaining challenger that he's known how to race in this race. But behind him, we've got some names we haven't seen before in the top 10 so far today. And Earl Sear's just starting to pad his lead a little more. It's just that 3 truck's been unbeatable today. And with so many of his challengers being eliminated in that crash, I have a feeling this is going to be game, set, match for him. As we look further back in the top 10, Alexander Rowe having a strong run in 5th. Zachary Bilson, who was the points leader coming into this race, he is 6th. And Todd Hemler making his series debut, running in 7th. He's going to face challenge in that spot from Jared Polanski. And then behind them, 2 drivers looking for their first top 10s, Logan Jones and Clay Costello in the 46, both looking for their first top 10s of the year.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate those trucks were out of this race due to a wreck, but it's also shining light on these trucks that normally don't get into the top 10 or haven't shown much speed yet this year. It's definitely going to show interest into a lot of different teams, a lot of different manufacturers and sponsors, so it's a great limelight to all of these up-and-coming stars in the truck series.
To highlight as well to Myron Felder in his series debut, running 12th at the moment. Ryan Griffin and Zach Rogers managed to evade the wreck. They're running in the top 15 as well. But back up front, we're closing in on 10 to go, and Earl Sear has got a pretty steady lead. He doesn't need to worry about the 07. He can let the Mountain Dew car go, but he's got to worry about the U.S. Navy Chevrolet of Carson Jefferson, because that has been his biggest challenger all day long. And at this point, I have a feeling they're going to be battling it out for the win, because I don't think Runkle or Chastain are gaining too much time on these guys.
Yeah, but the 66 cannot let the 3 get away. Obviously, clean air. He has a little bit of an advantage, obviously only having 1 car in front of him, but that 66, he has to do what he has to do to get up to the front and challenge that 3 for the win, even though he has been the dominant force all race.
He's led all 89 laps so far in this race, and unless something big happens in the closing laps, he may be the first Truck Series driver ever to lead every lap of the race en route to victory. But we still got 10 to go until that happens. And Jefferson is, like he said, is going to have to do absolutely everything it takes to steal the win away from a dominant number 3.
Yeah, he's going a little high to get some cleaner air. It's working out really well as he's making a little bit of a move on the outside of the 3.
He's going to be going for the lead, but Earl Sear has the quicker line around. Because keep in mind, Carson Jefferson has not been on the high side much all day long. This is his first real shot at trying the high groove. So he needs to be working his tail off to try and get around this 3 truck however he can, because we've got 8 laps to go in this race, 7.5 now, and Earl Sear still comfortably out front.
Yeah, but don't look any further than 18. He's also creeping up into the picture, as well as that 1 truck. Not sure if they'll have anything to go for the 66 or 3, but they are definitely a little bit harder competition on that 66, which may play a factor in his role in winning this.
Coming to 6 laps to go now. Earl Sear has led them all. He's doing a fantastic job dominating this race. It's his first real opportunity in a top-tier ride, trying to prove he deserved it. And now we're coming to 5 laps to go. Earl Sear comfortably out in front of Carson Jefferson, but Austin Runkle in that number 18 closing up a little bit. It'll be interesting to see if he can pose a challenge to the 66.
Yeah, but the 66 is only looking forward to that through truck. He cannot let him get away. He has to do whatever he can to gain as much momentum, and you have a shot at that 3 and hopefully get that victory as the laps are running now.
3.5 to go from Bristol, and Earl Sear's got a pretty steady lead, but he's got to make no mistakes in these final 3 laps, because if he even one slip up could allow both the 66 and the 18 a chance to get around him. It would be an absolute heartbreak if Earl Sear did not win this race, but he's only 2.5 laps away from doing so.
Yeah, it's getting closer and closer. The laps are winding down. That 66 has to do something and has to make a move, or it is going to be game, set, match.
Coming to the white flag this time, Earl Sears got a pretty comfortable lead, but like we've been saying, no mistakes on this final lap. He's got to make it the best lap of his life. White flag in the air one more time around from Bristol Motor Speedway, and Earl Sears got a hard-charging Carson Jefferson closing in. This is Jefferson's last chance right here, going into 3 and 4. It's not quite going to be able to make it coming off of turn 4. Earl Sears going to go flag to flag with victory in the AutoZone 250 for his first career Truck Series win. He holds off Carson Jefferson to get it done. Austin Runkle comes home 3rd. Francois Chastain 4th, and Rowe in the 51 comes home 5th ahead of points leader Bilson in 6th. Todd Hemmler in a hard battle with Jared Polanski. They will finish 7th and 8th ahead of Logan Jones 9th, and Clay Costello rounds out the top 10 in a race that really changed the moment that caution came out, because it depleted the top 10 runners and it gave some new guys a shot, and they took advantage of it.
Yeah, the complexion of the race definitely changed in an instant. Obviously, cautions do change up the complexity of races no matter what the circumstance. It was definitely an interesting race, a really good, hard-fought battle for the 3, and the 66 just came up short, but a really good job by everybody in this field.
So from Ben McDonald and from myself as well, we'll say goodbye from Bristol Motor Speedway, and we'll see you in a few weeks when the Truck Series heads to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. That's going to be an action-packed race as well. We're looking forward to seeing what these truckers can do out there. And from that, we'll say goodbye from Bristol. Congratulations to Earl Sears. He's got his first career win in the 1-Up Turbo Truck Series. Las Vegas and Sin City await these truck drivers as the season is now 3 races in. We've had 3 different winners so far.